Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new podcast, the Clinton, Indiana Little Italy Festival Podcast. This is Doug Hess along with Chris Wood, and here in the studios we have Jackie Roberts, the LIFT Board President, and we also have Joe Stewart, Joe, who is the Secretary and the Chairman of the Parade and the Vendors. Welcome.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for coming on and working with us regarding this podcast, because Labor Day weekend is going to be here before we know it. It's going to be upon us, and that's kind of a big deal for not only Clinton, but for the surrounding areas as well.
Yeah, the Little Italy Festival is something that Clinton, Indiana is known for. People outside of the town come in to see this, so it's exciting to have Jackie and Joe with us today to talk about that. I'm looking forward to having this podcast the weeks leading up to the podcast, because to the festival, because not only are we going to be able to cover some of the activities that are going to go on, we'll be able to kind of allow those people that maybe don't live here anymore an opportunity to look at their hometown to see, the festival is still well and alive, and hear what their old town is up to.
Absolutely. So first thing we need to address is I know a lot of people know this as LIFT. However, because there's so many different Little Italys out there, whether it's Chicago, New York, etc., we wanted to make sure that people are getting the right town at the right place. Don't want them to show up in Chicago and go, "Where's this festival?" And it's like, well, you missed it. You're a little too north. So it is the Clinton, Indiana Little Italy Festival Podcast, and we had to do that just to be sure people are attending the right festival at the right time in terms of that.
Well, if they come here, it is obviously the right place.
That's right. So we want to make sure.
Clearly.
Oh. So.
Hey, Jackie, talk a little bit about, if you will, the purpose of the Little Italy Festival Town Incorporated, LIFT, if you will.
Oh, sure.
I think a lot of people know that and assume that LIFT is responsible for putting on the festival. However, it's so much more than that.
It really is. So Little Italy Festival Town Incorporated is the technical name of the organization. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we date back to the mid 1960s when a bunch of members of the Clinton Lions Club and the city officials of Clinton decided they wanted to celebrate the heritage of those who really kind of settled in the area, as well as the industry that they brought along with them, and so it's been going strong for a long time.
As you look at the flyer we have in front of us, it says our mission is to promote cultural awareness, community involvement, and the historical preservation through our historical properties and vibrant events. Absolutely. It doesn't even say anything about the parade. It doesn't say anything about the festival.
Right.
Obviously, that is a vibrant event, but that is just one piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. It is our biggest fundraiser of the year. And what I mean by that is we use the festival as a vehicle to be able to preserve some of our historic properties, be able to make sure that we're keeping the artifacts that have been donated to us are in good keeping, and that we're making those things available to the community, and not just during the festival, but around the year.
Sure. And
I think over the years, some site has been lost in that respect. So as president, I feel like it's kind of my responsibility to kind of say, yes, we love the festival. We do, we put on the festival. We love it. It's a great celebration, a vibrant event, as our mission says. But also, there's more to what we do. We're promoting that heritage and that community involvement and awareness.
And preserving those pieces, we're going to talk about these much more in the weeks coming, but they include the Coal and Rail Museum. They include the Il Mercato, the Wine Garden, Immigrant Square, and so many other things that we look forward to kind of featuring going forward.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be diving into that. In terms of that. Now, one thing I wanted to ask both of you, and you probably, a lot of our listeners have probably seen it on social media, is the arch and making sure that that's being preserved. What role is Lyft taking to make sure that that gets preserved?
So that's a great question, because I know there was a lot of unknowns out there as far as like, okay, who does own the arch? Who's
Right.
who's responsible for it? It was actually donated to Little Italy Festival Town, to the organization, by the Clinton Lions Club. And the unique thing is that it is installed on city property.
Oh, okay.
So our policies, as you will, cover the arch, and we are tasked with the upkeep and the restoration and that sort of thing. However, it is installed there on city property because it is in the berm, between the sidewalk and the road. So, and actually, that's not the only monument, so to speak, that we have that is like that. The Four Seasons Fountain is on city property as well. However, we are tasked with maintaining and preserving the Four Seasons Fountain. It was Lyft volunteers who and board members who created the fountain, built it with their own hands, which is really amazing. There are some pictures that they just blow your mind. That they formed some of the concrete using an old Coca-Cola sign. I mean, it's just the ingenuity, and it's just amazing when you look back at some of those things. So the arch is definitely one of those things. We know what state it's in, and unfortunately, we're at that point where we need the festival to be as successful as it possibly can as a fundraiser this year, in order for us to be able to start doing the repairs that are needed. And so I think Joe was going to talk a little bit about kind of a partnership that we're working with, and in order to make that happen.
It's with the arch and the fountain as well. We had a local company come out and help us paint it. They got wind that we were painting and stuff, and they understand we're not all painters. So they're like, hey, let us loan you our expertise and our equipment. And they came out, and we had some of our board members, and actually some folks that weren't board members stopped by and say, hey, absolutely, we'd love to help. So they cleaned it. I mean, they literally got down there with brushes and scrapers and everything, and they made that thing as smooth and as prepared as they could to be painted. So they got painted. We understand, due to water hardness and all this, and
weather,
just weather,
sure,
things like that. The algae started to grow back. We had a certain amount of time before we could treat with the algicide. Well, it got to us before we get it in there. So
Sure.
it has been treated once. There's some algicide on the top side. I had comments the other day, hey, your paint's coming through. I'm like, no, it's algae. I got to get up there, and another board member is going to help me. Excuse me. Hopefully this week, and we're going to get it scrubbed off, so paint will be back to its
Sure.
gloriousness and stuff. With the arch, we had a local business owner, community member reach out, and he's like, hey, I want to help. What can we do? And that's when, not all of us understood that it's set on city property, but it's ours, and not everybody in town knows that.
Sure.
Unfortunately, everybody has an opinion, but not everybody knew. And honestly, we had to make sure.
Right.
So we did that. So they said, hey, how do we get money to you guys? How, let's get quotes, all this stuff. And, Gene Kelsheimer there with Stockyard Meats, he took on that project himself. And he said, hey, with the financial part of it, we want to be able to make sure this money gets to the correct hands. So we went to the bank, and First Financial here in town has been wonderful, as always, to work with. They helped get all that set up and stuff like that. So, hopefully in the very near future, we'll get to the point where there's been enough funds gathered together so that we can get that project started. And ultimately, we'd like to have it done by the festival. So,
Sure.
If you got any questions about that, anybody out there, they can contact Lyft through our Facebook page, or you can stop in there to Stockyard Meats and get you a sandwich and talk to Gene. So.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, just for those that may be new to the festival this year, and hopefully we're going to get some individuals that's from out of town in, the Four Seasons Fountain is the one that's located right outside of Dairy Queen. Just
Right.
kind of give everybody
It's
kind of
on
Water Street.
Water
and
Street.
what's the cross street there?
Elm.
Elm.
Water
That's
Street.
it, yeah.
So just give everybody kind of a reference, especially if they're new to the area, which is not to be confused with the Immigrant Square and Coal Fountain, which is located in another part of the city.
Right, which is on 9th Street.
Ninth and Pike, yep.
On 9th and Pike. And it really has, it really is a wonderful piece of artistry, honestly. And, Mary Fornero has done an amazing job in upkeeping, and she has a group of volunteers that help her with that. But the coal fountain itself, it was just painted again this year as well. And then as far as Immigrant Square, we have the statue of, we affectionately refer to him as Luigi, the immigrant himself. So we have that, the bowl fountain, and then, of course, all of the flags that are, they were researched. And there's a flag that flies during festival for every nationality that's represented as an immigrant to this area.
Wow.
Which is
Very
really
cool.
cool. Really cool.
Sure.
And I got to be honest with you, I didn't know the history behind that. I didn't know if somebody just said, "Here's 14 flags," and we picked them at random.
Right.
But
Right.
that's kind of
Yeah.
cool to know that there's some type of historical tie to it.
Mary and her late husband Frenchio, if I say his name right, please
You're right.
forgive me.
Frenchio.
That was their kind of their brain trust. They came up with that, and it is called Little Italy Festival.
Sure.
But it's actually an immigration type festival. Everybody came here because, obviously part of, and you guys will cover in later podcasts, the coal industry was huge here. It's part of the reason this part of the state was formed the way it was. So there's lots of different people that came in with different skill sets and like that were beneficial to the coal industry and the success of that here. So they made sure that everybody was represented. So it is
cool.
it is truly a festival of different
All kinds of different nationalities.
nationalities, things like
Yeah.
that. So we just called it the Little League Festival because it kind of, it rang
Sure.
better off the tongue. I'm sure back then. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's probably got a story, but it is truly it is a festival for everyone.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure it was because the area that it's in was the area that was predominantly settled by Italian families, and it was predominantly Italian families who organized the festival to begin with. I just think it's such a neat thing, and I know as an quote unquote outsider,
Sure.
right? Because I was not raised here. I would drive by that, and think, wow, that's really cool. I wonder what the story is behind
Right.
that. And not know. And actually kind of got to turn the tables on some of my students because I was teaching 7th grade at the time. And I said, guys, what is this place? What's going on down here? And they're like, oh, that's the coal fountain. And so it was kind of cool to have them, tell me all about, the festival that first year and all of the things I needed to do and try and see. And so it was kind of a neat perspective.
Well, it is a neat perspective, and I am not from the area either. But isn't it neat, after all these years, you kind of adopt, for lack of a better term, the festival and Clinton. I'm from a far-reaching city in Hendricks County, Indiana, about 3 or 4 counties away. But since we've moved here, whatever that was, 16, 17 years ago, it is home. I feel kind of like one of those immigrants because the festival is more than stopping in to get an Italian beef.
Absolutely.
It is the parade. It is the wine gardens. It is the main stage. It is so many of those things that I'm proud of. When I talk to people outside of the area, friends, I'll say, you really, if you don't take time, Labor Day weekend, to come visit the festival for a day or two, you're really missing out on something special.
Absolutely. We have probably, I would say arguably one of the most beautiful locations in the state, and that is the wine garden. It is, when the leaves come on, it's breathtaking out
Yeah.
there. It really is. It's such a peaceful, area, and of course until you get to the bands at night. But it really is. I mean, it's great. You kind of feel like you are in Italy a little bit, sitting there, sipping a glass of wine and listening to some of the Italian music, and kind of soaking it all in.
Well, and I think what's really cool about the wine garden, especially at night, but sometimes during the day too, is it's kind of a gathering place. So maybe
Absolutely.
a classmate that you haven't seen in 10 years, 15 years, it's just really a nice way to come together and chat with people.
It's funny you bring that up. Last year, Jackie and I both ran into somebody we had no idea was in town that I hadn't seen since I graduated, and she hadn't seen in many years. A friend of hers as well. So it was kind of neat to like you said, everybody, hey, what we're doing? Let's go festival. It's festival weekend, so every day weekend. Let's go. Let's see who we bump into and those kind of things. So yeah.
Well, and it's kind of funny too because the person that I bumped into, I went to high school with. I went to high school in Georgetown, Illinois, and so he graduated in the same class as I did, and I'm out there running tokens to the token booth, and I turn around and I'm like, Grady, what are you doing here? He says, oh, well, we heard about this, and, we wanted to come check it out. So here we are, two quote-unquote outsiders, meeting up at the festival, which was really cool.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is so fun, it's been maybe 2 years since I've done this, so I don't want to give the impression that I do this all the time. I volunteered at the Coal and Rail Museum to kind of give, for lack of a better term, tours of the museum, and they give you kind of cheat sheets to I'm not all knowing, as we mentioned. I'm not. I am an immigrant to the festival, but it's so neat to hear that. Where other people come from in order to step in, and some of them are just day trips. I came from Indianapolis. I came from Carmel. I came from Chicago.
Yeah.
We actually have a guest sign-in book there, which from helping with the tours and stuff. But it's weird, or not weird, excuse me. It's interesting to go back through and look and see where people, what town they're from and stuff like that. So it is very interesting. So
and kind of getting back to the wine garden, it's a for families during the day.
Absolutely,
And then there's a cutoff there. And then it's more for the entertainment for the adults for maybe an adult beverage or two.
Yes,
a little salami cheese, some grapes, and really have a nice time, and hopefully the weather will cooperate because it's really a neat atmosphere if the weather cooperates, and it's just a beautiful night out there.
Absolutely it is, And we liked, we've been kind of trying to, or I guess it's been my own personal mission, I shouldn't say we, to try to make that a more family-friendly atmosphere, kind of like a winery atmosphere during the daytime of the festival, where you can come in and you can get an Italian beef or some bagna, you can try out some bagna cotta, and sit back and relax and listen to some great music and just enjoy the sunshine through the leaves. So
absolutely, and it's more than just a wine garden. That's in the back.
It's got the heritage and all that stuff there, and they do walk you through. And you can walk through, and there's different artifacts and stuff like that says, how the wine was made and the process and all that. And then you can go over to the general store and that place. I walk through it.
Il Mercato, I love it's one of my favorite places.
It's one of my favorite places to visit because every time you walk through there's something different. Like I've been through here 1,000 times and I've never caught that. And a lot of those folks, that had family back in Italy or wherever, sent stuff over here just to be part of that.
Right.
Yes.
And so you've got those kinds of things, and the same thing. I won't ruin a further episode, but the little house is kind of the same way right next door. But it's got things in there that you're like, either I never knew that, or man, I'd heard this and everything. But just different things and how they process stuff like that back in the day. It just that part of it's probably one of my favorite parts as far as places to walk through. So.
Well, so it's also educational in there. You get to see all the past Ray and Regina's that's in there, which is kind of neat because there's quite a few. I mean, what are we going into our 60th?
I I'm
60-some.
I'm gonna step on my toes.
Yeah,
here.
I know, well, it
I think
depends,
it's
because if you count COVID
COVID
year,
year,
yes,
count
yeah.
COVID year, you know.
we're like
so.
63, 65. We're not 100% sure there. So
A lot. Yeah.
there's a lot. I'm sure there's somebody out there that'll correct me and say, no, silly, this is what it is. But yeah, you're right. The Ray and Regina's, they put their names up on a board and everything. They make a board. Most do this every year. There's actually a file there of these big poster boards. I don't know even how far they go back. There's no room to hang on
Right,
them.
yeah.
We have to kind of limit them.
The first few years of the festival, they're all pretty much like, there's one poster board for like the first 5 or 6 years of the festival, but then after that they started having each of the Ray and Regina's make a poster board that kind of shows the highlights
Sure.
of their festival,
Their reign.
their
Sure.
reign, and so that's something that they do, and then we display there in the wine museum gift shop.
Yeah.
That's one of my goals, the little Italian house.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've lived here for however many years, and I've never been inside. I've passed by it 38 times,
Yeah.
but I've never taken time to go inside so
Yeah.
hold me to it, Doug. That's
I will.
something I'm going to do. I'm going to check out this year.
Absolutely. And something else that people can see, they no longer do, is the gondola.
Yeah.
That used to be, that you could actually, I think probably in the 60s, 70s, you could probably,
Even as late as the 80s.
in the 80s,
Yeah,
okay.
They
yeah,
would
you
float it on
could.
the river.
Yeah.
You could buy tickets and take a ride, which I'm so jealous because
Yes.
I
Wouldn't that be
would
kinda
love
cool?
that.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so cool. But yeah, it's not necessarily water worthy right now.
Sure.
It's one of those things too, and I may just be silly saying this, but when you step into so like Lucas Oil Stadium,
Right.
let's take it as a modern thing. You step in there, you feel this aura about you,
Yeah.
like this is somewhere special.
Right.
Okay. I may never have played on that field or whatever, but this is somewhere special. To this day, and I've been here my whole life, you end up into that gondola, and you just feel the history of the town, of everything that's gone on here, and just all the people that came before you and all that stuff. And it was that way when I was a kid. When I worked the grounds crew and stuff like that, or we had the Grand Prix back in the day. But when you step in that gondola, you can just, and lack of a better term, you can feel the heritage of Clinton with just by being in that thing.
And it was directly, they brought it over from Venice.
I was going to say,
This
the
is
story
just
goes,
mind-blowing.
yeah, and the story I had always heard, and I'm sure somebody will correct me on this, that local businessmen went over while they were building that, spent like 3 weeks, I think, I could be wrong, had it shipped back over here to the United States, here for Clinton, and then for several years, people could go up and down the Wabash.
Absolutely. And they used to take it used to be, it's kind of fragile now, honestly.
Sure.
But back in the heyday, they used to be able to take it to different parades all around the state, even out of state, from what I understand. Wow. And it was really a hit, in the parades and stuff. And our Ray and Regina and our Queen would, be there.
We
in
still
the
get
parades.
requests occasionally.
Yeah.
So, if it's somewhere where it's real close, we all kind of make a board decision. That way, not one of us is going to take the fall for it.
Right, yeah.
You don't want to be that person, but so, yeah.
Well, I've also heard the story, and it's at least lore, whether it's true or not, but it was supposed to be here a particular time a few weeks before that festival, and it wasn't able to make it, and shipping was delayed, and then, something had hung up, and literally, the gentleman that told me the story said it was like it was planned. It came off of 163 and was able to be in the parade.
Do you know, I've never heard that story.
That's
That's great.
awesome.
I hope it's true because the story is
It sounds
phenomenal.
great if it doesn't. We're going to stick with it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Ray and Regina and the Queen, those decisions have been made and they're already public.
Yeah.
But maybe kind of share who will be our Ray and Regina this year.
So our Ray and Regina this year are Dirk and Anna Foltz. And Anna has been involved with the festival since she was probably born. She's just, her family has been, the Palettas have been a fixture here in our community and have dedicated a lot of time and energy and to the festival and to its success. And so we thought, there's no better representatives this year for us than Dirk and Anna. Their son Paul is our gondolier usually, and takes care. He runs the grape stompings for us.
And has for several years.
Yeah, he has done that for several years. Taking over from his grandpa. But yeah,
And those positions are not for the faint of heart,
No.
right? Because they are nonstop from probably before Friday, but basically
Right.
Friday to Monday.
Yeah, you're here
they're
one
nonstop.
minute.
Yeah,
Hey, I got exactly 67 minutes to be at such and such place with another group of people,
Right.
and with another type of conversation or whatever. And so he does terrific at it. I don't envy him. I mean, obviously, I like to talk, but that man, he gets up there and he draws the crowd into it, just like his grandpa did. I remember as a kid, his grandpa did the same thing. And for me, you close your eyes, you can almost hear Archie with him because the way he handled himself and how if you acted shy about it, he was not letting it go. He drug you into those grapes, whether you liked it or not. So
Archie Pletto was a special man.
Yeah, he was.
And he was the at least for a number of years was the official winemaker.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yes.
And I was fortunate to be able to go to the media dinner one night when Archie was still with us.
Oh boy.
And
I know it's coming.
and he had a very thick Italian accent.
Yes.
yes.
And he said to me, I'd never met him before. Within 15 minutes, he said, "Have you had grappa before?" And I said, "Not only have I not had it, I don't know what it is."
Your life changed forever. Yes.
You have to respect that.
Especially if you let it drop. Yeah.
And for those not knowing, it is essentially I would equate it to Italian moonshine.
That's pretty darn close description. Yeah.
You take that
Car
first,
with it.
you take that first taste, and you're like, "This is nice," and then it burns for the next time. You feel it all the way down.
Yeah.
But
Again, not for the faint at heart. Not at all. Not at all. So,
but Archie never knew
A stranger.
a stranger.
absolutely not.
Yeah. Funny enough, he gave me my first shot of grappa as well. Well, I told him, I said, "Archie, you don't know what you've done." And that's when he leaned over and said, "You must respect the grappa."
That's right.
I need a T-shirt with that on it.
There you go. Fundraiser.
There you go. And you can see Archie's love for the festival and for the town still with the rest of his family.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
again, like Jackie said, there's we couldn't think this year of any better representation as for Ray and Regina as Dirk and Anna. And, her whole family, their whole family, I should say, are still very highly involved in the festival. And
And besides Ray and Regina, you also have a queen of
Queen
Grapes.
of Grapes, yes. This year, our Queen of Grapes is Jordan Smith. She is the daughter of Tom and Jennifer Smith here in Clinton. Jordan has been a volunteer for years and very active.
probably since her birth.
Honestly, yeah. And very active in promoting Lift and also Junior Lift. She was instrumental in leading that. And has, we get out of town judges and everything, so that there's no bias.
Sure, sure.
So we try to run the pageant so that there's no way, for people to come back and say,
And be a little biased for what reason.
well, that's because we've made some changes so that the questions that the contestants have to answer are all based on the history of the festival and of the area. So, like one example of a question this year was if somebody asked you, what would I find if I were to visit the Mercado? Or what historic artifact is in the Mercado that you would recommend me taking a look at? And every one of the contestants had great answers. They were all so well spoken. I was so impressed. But obviously the judges believe that Jordan was going to be the best choice this year to represent our festival as Queen of Grapes. And we are really excited. She knows everything there is to know about this festival.
And again,
inside and out.
her family, Tom and Jennifer have been here their whole lives. Jennifer was vice president last couple of years actually. And so, she's had some things change in her life and all that. So she took a step back, but she's offered, she's constantly offering, hey, is there something I can do?
Sure.
If we got the time, all that kind of thing. So again, just another great representation of the family atmosphere that we try and portray here with the festival, and their involvement still is much appreciated.
Well, for those listeners that are from the Clinton area, if you don't know who Jordan is, you will absolutely recognize her.
Yeah.
Because you see her around all the time. She's one of the dancers. We've seen her as a princess. We've seen her she gave tours with me at the Cole Museum.
Yeah.
She is very, very active. As you mentioned,
Right.
Junior Lift Board. She is very instrumental to this, and I think she's an excellent choice as the queen, and I don't think there's any doubt that she will continue into her adult years,
absolutely.
working with the festival and
Right.
making it.
We've been really blessed in that respect, especially in the last few years with queens who, they're like, we don't want our reign to end. What can
Right,
we what can we do, to help, to still be involved, to
Like
still,
this year, Hannah helped. I mean, she jumped in. Anna Hollowell takes care of our pageant. She's the vice president of LIFT. She took on the pageant the last couple of years, and her and Hannah sat down with her and says, "What are we doing?"
awesome.
And there's been other queens do that, but Hannah's just the most recent I can bring up. So, they said, "So how are we doing? What can I do to take some of this away from you and so that I have a lasting impression upon when my reign ended and we gave it to somebody else." And
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a change for the MC this year.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you want to tell us who that is?
Absolutely. So this year, the MC for the festival is going to be John Swanner from WTHI. And we are.
And everywhere else.
Yeah.
Sorry, John.
I had to pause there for a second because I know that wasn't always the case. So
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, but he actually approached us on the behest of his wife, who said they're looking for someone. You need to do this. And the more he looked into it, he decided you are right, as most smart men do. You're right, dear wife. He is really kind of taking up the mantle. He has huge shoes to fill.
Yes, he does.
And he's aware of it.
And speaking of huge, Dan Goff did us amazing this festival. He was the voice of the festival.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
How many years did he do it? Do you remember?
107. I just wanted to
Absolutely.
For a
Sounds
67
He made
year
her invent the festival. No, just kidding, Dan. We love you. But Dan took our notes and stuff like that, and he gave us one or two big boxes of things he had done over the years,
All of his
history,
vests
all
that
his
he wore
vests.
during the
Okay, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like, 'cause,
Those need to go
John
in the
brought that
museum.
up, and I was like,
Yeah.
no, those going to the museum. It's gonna be like Elvis's. I'm like, no, we're gonna archive those things. But one thing that impressed me about John, and I've known John even before his on-air days.
Sure.
We worked together back in Menards back in the day. John had actually, before he ever came to us, he had been studying Dan before the wife even suggested it. I'm sure that's part of his, his character as far as what he does.
Sure.
You got to look at different people.
Yeah.
He does similar things I do. What's he do different?
Yeah.
John had studied Dan and how he conducted himself and the things he brought up and how he kept things flowing. And John said himself, he goes, I use that in my everyday job, not just what I'm planning to
Sure.
do for the festival.
Sure.
John has stepped in. I think Jackie will agree with this. In the media dinner, unfortunately, in the last few years, had kind of lost its lackluster. And John's like, we're fixing this. So, he's bugging all his media friends and everything else, and he's like, I hope you guys make enough spaghetti because I'm bringing folks. But his enthusiasm for this, I mean, like, he was telling us stuff
It's infectious. It really is.
Dan had
Yeah.
said that we're like, man, I kind of remember that now. So we're like, yeah. So I know, especially, John, just because he's a friend of mine, but he's truly excited about being the festival. And we had great MCs last year. We obviously were in that transition year between Dan and trying to figure out who we needed.
Direction.
And we said it last year, and I remember Adria, the past president, she goes, the right person's going to come to the surface. We had great people, Dalton Boyles and Nick Newman, both local guys that helped change things technologically for us and all that. Anna, our Regina this year, she spoke up. Paul, different people, Mike D'Amica,
Andrew Paletta.
sorry. They came in and they did their time. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, John pops up. And
Well, yeah.
just the enthusiasm that man brings to the table
awesome.
is just, like she said, infectious.
Well, it's also cool. You may see him as the MC for the first time, but he's not new to the festival.
No,
as you
absolutely
said.
not. No.
He and his wife Kim, I've seen here for a number of years.
Every day.
And it's not to stop in for
No,
something.
yeah.
They come to visit for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since I've been the vendor chairman, every day, different points of the day of the 2 years I've been in charge of that, and 3 years with the parade, that man and his wife and family are here, his daughters, everything else. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure I still have a picture somewhere of him stomping grapes last year at the media dinner, which
Yes.
was great.
yeah, because he does not like that.
Yeah.
Like, that was a suggestion by his wife.
Yes.
So.
And
Thanks, Kim.
and I believe we already got John scheduled to be on the podcast.
Yay.
He's already agreed to
Great.
that, so that's awesome.
In addition to that, we have full intentions to get Dirk and Anna on,
Yes.
Ray and Regina.
Yeah.
We have intentions to get Jordan on as the Queen of Grapes. And going forward, we hope, Doug and I are the voices behind the podcast,
That's right.
but we hope that you hear many, many other people that are instrumental in forming this festival and Lyft as a whole.
Well, I know we're getting short here on time, but just a couple quick comments or really a question here to start off with is, for the three of you, what is one thing that you look forward to every year with the festival?
Wow. That's a good one.
I'll go first because mine comes right to it. Mine is the parade. And it is the single only reason why I volunteered to be the chairman of the parade. Because I'm going to tell you, I love this community. I moved away for a while as an adult when I went to college and in my career, and I moved back. Always came to the parade. Since I am old enough to have a memory, I've not missed a Little Lily Festival parade.
Speaking of the parade, and you're the chair of the parade,
Unfortunately, yes.
Is it too late for people to
Absolutely not.
And how do they
Absolutely
get in the
it's
parade?
the appropriate time because I've got time to deal with it now. So if you go onto our Facebook page, the application is on there. We've made a few changes this year. So for businesses, there is a fee. For nonprofits, so fire departments. Schools, churches, things like that. Nonprofits. There is no fee. We did that on suggestions of a lot of other parades, things like that. And to be honest, it's not something we wanted to do, but as we'll talk in other episodes. I'm sure the cost of maintaining our buildings and things like that, which is the purpose of the festival, like Jackie said earlier. And remembering our heritage and those artifacts and things like that, we had to do what we had to do to generate some funds. Okay, last year, I'll tell you this, and it's something I was very proud of. We were according to the state's Fair Association, we were the second largest parade last year.
Oh, wow.
At 130 some entrants. The only thing that beat us was the Annapolis Motor Speedway 500 parade.
Wow.
Now, as you guys all know me, I'm a huge auto racing nut.
Yeah.
So to even be brought up in that same conversation with that was a huge undertaking for me. But to get back to the original question, Doug, sorry.
No, that's right.
I wandered.
No, that's right.
What is the parade? Because you see everybody. You see people that, like now, I used to enjoy when I was on the fire department here locally, get to see different people and people I went to school with and their kids coming out getting candy, and I was like, I remember that used to be me. And now, I go up and down that parade route, the entire parade route. I mean, that darn thing took almost an hour and a half last year, which again, I'm very proud of.
Sure.
And so is the rest of the board.
Absolutely.
Because it wasn't just me, I promise you. There was a lot of things, Carmen, our treasurer, her and her significant other, Brian Rhodes, they came up with the numbers on the side of the side of the road, which I don't know why we didn't think of that 65 years ago.
Right.
So kudos to those guys.
It's too easy.
It was too easy. So I was like,
It's right there.
it was right there. So things like that. But I come back and forth, and I just see the people that, no matter where they come the rest of the week, they come for the parade, they come for the carnival that night, and they get to enjoy that, and just brings them all together. And honestly, I mean, that's what does it for me. So,
Jackie, you?
Well, for me, it's more an event. I actually, prior to even being on the board, I joined the Italian Singers.
Oh, very
yeah.
cool.
And
Very
so for me, it's performing with the Italian singers. I absolutely love it.
That's excellent.
Music is a great window to a culture. And some of the Italian numbers that we do are they're just so vibrant and just so full of energy. And I have to chuckle because we have a retired Italian professor from Indiana State University
cool.
who is in our group. And so every once in a while he'll lean over to me and say, "You know what this song is about, right?" And let me tell you, some of them are not PG. But no,
But you never know it.
You just never know. Everybody's just clapping. No, but and I told him, Professor, you need to tell everyone this. I told Anna that we need to get him up in front of the mic to introduce our songs and tell everybody what they're really about. Because I think a lot more people would be sitting there listening. But no, absolutely, hands down, Italian singers is my favorite part.
Chris?
I think there's a lot of great things, obviously, but I think one of my favorite is the main stage. It is an opportunity to see so many different things from the kids doing all kinds of different activities, the Vicky West dance team, the Little Miss pageant, it was always fun. Typically, they have the band, the South Vermillion band and the choir performing. And there's also some just fun, almost goofy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The pizza eating contest, the spaghetti eating contest, the mustachio contest.
Costume.
It is fun to see a great combination of the culture and just downright silliness. I love that. And grape stomping, obviously. It's one of the places you can see grape stomping. And if you come to the festival, I think it should be a requirement. We have to carry around a little punch card, and we punch your card before you get in your car to go home. You've got to stomp at a grapes.
Yes.
Doug, we're not going to let you off. You ask the question of us.
Sure. For me, it's the Coal Museum, and I'll tell you why. My grandpa worked in the coal mines his whole life, and that was something I remember as a little kid, as early as I can remember. That was something that my grandpa and I would do every single year. On Saturday morning, I would beg him to take me up because, that's what Grandpa did. That was part of his life, and he would tell little stories, and I still remember this day. And to me, even as an adult, and he's passed away some 20 years ago, that's still something I like to go up there and take my boys to. Sometimes, they're not into it, as much as I am.
They will be.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just that nostalgia, going back there and just having those great memories and just finding a few minutes to find that peace, if you will, in terms of that. So that's great.
As we wrap up, I have a question. How can listeners be a part and get information to you or ask questions of you?
Oh, sure. Right now, the best way is to contact us on our Facebook page, which is Little Italy Festival Clinton. There are a lot of other little groups and things floating around out there. So the Little Italy Festival Clinton is our official page where we post everything, all the schedules, all the events that are happening. We have ads for our sponsors on there who we're very grateful for. And so that is the best place probably to reach out. I'm usually the one answering the messages.
But there's more than just one person. That's why we did it that way. So if she's busy in a meeting or whatever, then myself or another board member, not all of them like answering them because they're like, I don't understand what this person's talking about. We understand. So there's a group of us that we try and monitor it, and a lot of times we may answer it, and Jackie may just have the time to type it.
Sure.
So we send her the information or whatever if it's something she doesn't already know. She's pretty well hands-on as far as the presidency goes, so it's just her world, we live in it. So,
And in addition, we were talking earlier that The board meetings are open to the public.
Absolutely.
You encourage
Yes.
residents to stop
Please.
by and
Please.
yes, they can
Positive,
become a part
positive
of
or
it.
negative,
Right.
critical,
We like to hear your feedback. We really do. And I know there are some things that are out of our hands, as far as things that people would like to see, because they were run by organizations or held by organizations that are no longer able to staff those events, or it's just out of our hands, and actually never was in our hands,
Right,
to begin
right.
with. But because it's quote unquote our festival,
Right.
people just kind of assume. So yeah, it's just one of those things where we want people to come. If you have suggestions, if you have any kind of information you'd like to give,
want to volunteer.
that would be wonderful. We welcome you. We meet on the first Thursday of the month at 7:00 at the Lift office, which is 102 North Main. If you're kind of directionally challenged, look for the building with the giraffe out front.
It's next to the police station.
Next to the police
town hall, all
station,
that stuff,
town
yeah.
hall, right in front of the coal museum and passenger depot. It's that section of the building. And actually, in the month of August, we will be meeting every Thursday
From now until the end of the festival.
From now until the end of the festival. And so, as we go, our meeting location may change during August, just to easier facilitate us needing to do any kind of repairs, or if we know, okay, we have weeds to pull at the wine garden, our meeting might be at the wine garden that week.
Right.
So please just reach out on the page and we can let you know.
And one thing too, I think it's important because even growing up here, I didn't realize this. That festival is held by 13 people, whatever. I think that's the board numbers. Okay,
Yeah.
13 of us. We can't do it ourselves.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's the time and place that we all live in now. Volunteers, people's lives are busier and everything else. I mean, you guys know the different activities you're involved with. So we rely heavily on volunteers. We've got a nice group. We always need more.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a Lyft board member.
You can't have too many hands.
Yeah, you can never
Right.
have too many hands. I know, both your wives are like, hey, what can we do? A year or so ago, and they came and they took tokens. And then ever since, they're like, all right, what day's mine?
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
different people. There's different folks around town that, that have gotten involved here in the last year or two, and they're like, man, that's kind of fun.
And then you kind of look forward to it.
Yeah,
every-
unfortunately, like I can only do one night because I got other activities
Yeah.
with family kids, but I want those 3 or 4 hours to come serve food at the wine gardens or just take tokens. Or we have one old lady. She's the only lady. She just comes and picks out the trash bags. And tells our grounds crew, hey, this one he's taken care of, and helps gather stuff on the table. And she socializes with everybody.
Right.
And we need little things like it. You don't have to be a board member and take on that monthly
That's right.
responsibility.
Or even a Lyft member.
Or even, we'd love to have more Lyft members.
Yeah, we would, absolutely.
There's perks to go along with that, and we can get into that in another episode. But just to come volunteer an hour or so. You don't if you don't want to do manual labor, great. You want to stand there and take tokens and just lack of a better term, BS with the folks coming through the door.
So be it.
Great. Because there's not a lot of folks like that anymore.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
It can be an hour or two. It can be the entire
Easy.
weekend. You can help them find something to do that matches their skill set.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So coming, and enjoying it at the same time, and then I'm a firm believer in I think I've always been this way. You get what you give.
Yep.
So if you want your town to be productive and a decent place for your kids to grow up, things like that, volunteer an hour.
Yep.
I don't care if it's in a city park, if it's picking up trash, if it's going to work in the dang concession stand at a football game here, or basketball, baseball, or the little league down there. Be involved.
Absolutely.
That's what makes a community and not just a place.
Absolutely.
That's just
When
my.
your kids see that and they see that example. Yeah.
Jackie, Joe, thank you so much for coming on, and we look
Appreciate
forward to having more conversations with you throughout from here until the end of the festival, really, in terms of that. But if you're listening to this podcast, please like, follow, and download these episodes, go out there and just have it automatically download. So every Wednesday when this episode is released, it automatically is downloaded to your phone or whatever device that you're listening to, and so you can listen to it as well. So,
And the more listeners, the better. If you would be willing to share this with other people on your social media, we'd love to get this out to as many people as possible. Bring back some old faces that maybe have stepped out of the community for a little bit, or just maybe bring them the good news of the festival.
absolutely. Well, again, thank you.
Thank you for having
guys.
us.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
We're going to close out this episode of the Clinton, Indiana Little Italy Festival podcast with a fun, bouncy little song sang by our own Italian singers called the TikTok Polka. Enjoy.
Va